production of a new release, let's talk about that. I felt very honored because it means that I'm more important than all of Nordea.
Totally. I mean, I would not miss the world to be here.
Perfect. But tell us a little bit, like, what are you putting in production right now?
So the key thing, I think, is we're making a rather big change to our internal general chatbot that everyone has access to. And I think it's going out to, what is it now, Mattias? Remind me, 5,000 users?
Yeah. We started with 3 and now we're moving out to 10,000 in the next phase.
So 3 to 5 to 10. And which release is this?
So we're trying to make the system a bit smarter and adding more Nordea knowledge to it. That's what people have been requesting since day one, basically. And they always want more of that.
Oh, yeah. And what is the sort of most wished for type of Nordea knowledge that they want the internal chatbot to have?
I think the key one is usually like where people document stuff, which in our case is on Confluence. Also our internal intranet is a popular topic. And maybe it's a hot topic, but I'm actually questioning the usefulness of it because I think there's a lot of conflicting information on especially Confluence. And
was I've been a part of a couple of production releases. Sometimes it's a breeze, and sometimes you're sweating because, how was this one?
We had a great plan and a great roadmap, but for various reasons, we ended up in a situation where the release became a all or nothing situation.
Ooh,
and
cool.
That was not really a desirable spot for us. So we tried to take a step back and split it up into multiple parts so that if we only got 80% of the way there, all of those 80% would still go to production.
So you actually don't have an all or nothing kind of one shot, zero shot approach. You have like if it fails, it will fail here, and it's still 80%.
Yeah. Yes, that's the intention. So we try to do it a bit more iteratively.
That's cool. And I need to ask, and maybe you need to. When did you start experimenting with your first internal chatbot? And how many releases is it? Is it 2.1 or is it 1.3.5 or? When did you start experimenting? When did you go to production the first time?
So first experiment was done by me and my colleague Philip, who unfortunately isn't here, but it was 2.5 years ago now, roughly, and when we did the first one. And that one quickly actually got the attention of upper management, and it led up to the internal AI conference, actually, which was a bit over 2 years ago.
Yeah, we need these lighthouses. Can you remember which underlying model was at that point in time? 2.5 years ago. I mean, like
the first one we used was actually Llama 2.
Llama 2, yeah.
That did not live very long for us.
This is eons back in AI time.
Feels long ago for sure.
And could you say something a little bit about what is your fundamental, when you go into production now, assume AWS Bedrock, what's the core underlying?
So now we use Claude Sonnet 4.5 primarily.
And you're taking it through AWS Bedrock.
We use AWS Bedrock.
Oh, so much to talk about. Anyway, I really want to welcome Team Nordea here from AI Hub, and of course, Mattias Fras, you've been here before. I think maybe even the first or second season. So it's a couple of years back. Yeah, you've been there twice? No, you haven't. You haven't been.
I don't know, but I'm the old guy. Yeah,
you're the old guy. Yeah? We are the guys with the beard, right, and glasses. And then we have the new kids on the block, the really cool guys. We have Olof Månsson. So we have Olof Månsson and Mattias Fras from Nordea. So very much welcome here. We're going to talk about the AI innovation in banking and how to do it properly with the proper governance. Doing the new stuff with the proper governance. That's the theme. But before we jump into all of that, I think we need to have the 5-10 minute background a little bit about you guys. So I'll start with Olof.
The youngster.
The youngster. What do you say? Age before beauty or beauty before age? I can't remember. Brilliance before. All right.
Old and tired.
That's the way. I'm going to go with that one. Yeah, but so tell me a little bit about your background, your role. How you ended up there, sort of thing.
So my background is in engineering physics. I majored in scientific computing, and I guess back then it was machine learning and deep learning. Today, I guess I would just say AI. And from there, I moved into consulting, did a bit of general software engineering, data science, quite a lot of cloud engineering. And back then I didn't really appreciate it or understand the point of it, but I learned a lot and it became incredibly useful for everything that happened after that. From there, I moved into a role as a machine learning engineer at H&M, doing large-scale demand forecasting for H&M's global assortment. I was fascinated by the scale there. Small changes have big impacts, but I wanted to do something like from scratch, and I think that's where I decided to join Nordea.
Can you remember what sort of, what was it that made you make the move? More than this, was it bold guy? You're the brilliant guy, do you remember?
Well, I was definitely tempted by starting over more from scratch compared to where I was before. I looked into Mattias. I listened to his first episode here on this podcast, actually, as part of research.
I was going to get that. You killed the whole punchline now, because it's like, obviously, it's because of us that you choose to go to Nordea. That was the punchline. No, but but also from retail to banking. Did you think about that a bit, or?
I didn't think too much about that, actually. I wanted to make something or be in a large enterprise, because I think the scale makes things very interesting. You can have a big impact, and some problems are very simple when the scale is small, but become extremely hard when the scale is large.
Yeah. And how would you summarize your role and your main responsibilities and contribution in the team?
I think I would say I've been the lead developer for our internal GenAI platform for the past 2.5 years. On paper, I'm a data scientist. I don't think that's very descriptive of my day-to-day work. I guess I prefer, like everyone else in 2025, to call myself an AI engineer.
Yeah, we shifted that, didn't we?
Good job on that. I do a bit of everything that needs to be done as part of it.
So it's really your baby that is going to production today?
Yes.
You're not home when your baby needs pampering?
Well, it's not the first time it goes into production, so we've done this a few times now, so it's a fairly well-oiled machine.
You're already a pro, I hear. Let's switch to Mattias. Why don't you do the same, your background?
All the way back?
Go all the way back for half an hour. No, but do the short version and a little bit like... a little bit. But
I mean, my career is kind of like, I've spent all my 25 years or so in large corporates, large enterprises. So, but I've only switched job once. I probably worked in 50 or 60 large corporates, but switched job once because I was in consulting before I joined Nordea. So I was with Accenture for the first half, working with change, but the old school way. Shared services, lean,
IT,
process improvements, so on. And then I joined Nordea joined Nordea as a CFO of the Swedish Life company, because I wanted to try to have a real job, see what I was like, have an old P&L, be in a management team of a company, driving the strategy, having, lots of great people to manage. So I did that for 4 years, but then I went back to consulting, you could say, but in the context of Nordea. And since 15, I've been driving change the new way. So...
And how do you define change the new way? What do you mean with that?
Yeah, so I mean that my first assignment back in 15 was to look into how we could move roles from the Nordics to Poland to get a wage arbitrage, which is the old way. But in the fall of 15, this thing called RPA came into the market. It was like it had been around for a while in some, I think it originated in like Barclays and some of the big banks where they built this, but then 15 it started to have like a product market fit, I guess. So UiPath and
the Blue. Yes, I remember them. Prism. Oh, I forget.
Blue Prism.
Blue Prism. Yes.
Came about, and then we looked into that, and we saw that this is what do you robotize? Well, actually, the well-documented, rule-based, well-structured processes, and that's pretty much what you're also looking for when you want to move stuff. abroad, right, offshore. So we saw there's a big overlap here. So let's try to go that route instead. It's cheaper, it's faster, and it also makes our people grow in terms of being more digital and how to use digital tools. So that's what we did, actually, and that's when kind of the pin dropped for me. Say, okay, this is new technology we can use as a bank, even though we have lots of legacy and problems. We can at least use some tools to leapfrog a little bit. I mean, I know these scripts are. And then you've been on band-aids, but at least you could make some.
But that was the starting point, and I think. Well, when was the first time you even talked at the dating? I mean, like we've known each other for years because you were at the same conferences.
It was probably 16 or 17 or something like that.
Yeah, and already then it was machine learning. I think, or was it only RPA then?
No, it was because the chatbots came in 16 or 17.
Yes.
So the introduction of, I mean, deep learning came like. As a thing in, I think, 15 to industry in general.
Yeah.
So I think in 16 the chatbots came. Everybody talked about chatbots, and we'd implemented that, and that was sort of the second new tech that I brought in and scaled
up. You're talking about the chatbot, the customer service one, or the chatbot on the internet, stuff like that.
Amelia,
right? And so you had many. I mean, like there's several different types of techniques underneath here, and not the LLM technique then, as we are doing it now.
No.
But because for me, you have been Mr. AI in Nordea for quite some time. I mean, like many take the claim, and then you move towards. There's been a journey. We're going to talk more about that later. But now you're in AI hub, and that came about.
So we did that, and then we worked a lot on governance also in in the late 20, like in 18, 19, 20, and then in 20 we realized we need to have a. AI and data lives everywhere. You can't sort of run it from one box. Yeah. So then we said, let's set up this AI hub that sort of is a layer on top of all the silos to attract like problems, people, and use cases and everything else into like one place. That's why we established it in 2020.
So the AI hub has been going since 2020.
Yeah, or 2021. Yeah, early 2021. So. But now it is no more. So no, we have just reorganized.
Oh, then we take that in a second.
Yeah, so I will get to that. But basically, this has put us in a position where we have a very good overview. We've been able to work a lot with stakeholders. We have like a good sort of foundation now because then November 30, 2022 happened. ChatGPT, it didn't happen immediately, but I would say in March, April 23, that's when it's sort of that's when we presented it in our highest management team, the first time, demoed the first ones. And in the fall of 23, Olof and the others put out this vision and started to prototyping. And then in 24, we did a lot of pilots on laptops. And in the fall of 24, we put the platform in production. And then early this year, we went live with the first use cases. And So now we are in a different era with the whole Gen AI.
We will pick this apart later, but just as a summary then, what's your role now and what is your main focus?
My role since Monday...
what a scoop!
is head of AI adoption in the bank. So we are now sort of reorganized a little bit. So we have execution, adoption, transformation, strategy. Yeah.
We go back into that. Okay, so... Great stuff. I'm so excited to have you guys here. And now let's do a setup of the theme, because we were sort of, ping-ponging back and forth. How should we frame this theme? And how should we take AI governance? And then Mattias came back with what I think is a brilliant, title of this podcast. I'm going to read it internally. And we put AI innovation in banking. And then I love the payoff, the art of building the new and ensuring proper governance. So that was almost poetic, Mattias. So, could you sort of, why did you want that title? I love it, by the way.
Because I think, since I'm the old guy, I've been around for so long, right? Yeah. And in the old days, like before Gen AI even, I would say that the tools we had, like the recommender system, the chatbots, and other tools, that you could put them on top of things. You of course need to have data available for the models, and to train the models and so on. But you didn't have to integrate as much. But now, as we go into Gen AI and agentic AI, that everybody talks about, and we are as well, you need to integrate AI into the core, and then you cannot sort of, you have to change things, which means you have to like rewire many different internal functions.
I fully see what you mean.
Yeah.
And we
so
can
that's
go
like, so doing innovation properly, like, and then change these things at the same time is like an art. And you need to have smart guys who are thinker-doers like this guy and some others.
And because the art here is another way of putting the word art in an enterprise way is navigation of all these different facets is an art to balance all these different constraints, the politics and the challenges and all this. Yeah, this is an art.
And it's like realizing that I cannot innovate unless I embrace that stuff. Because if I don't embrace the governance stuff, then I should go work for a startup.
That's true. And I think in another topic here, I see people who are sort of, we can get into deep rants here, almost like how I see some people are trying to do AI adoption coming from HR. So they have a people perspective and all that is great, but they don't have a deep understanding for this art, and they don't have a deep understanding for that art in terms of engineering behind it. So then it becomes superficial, in my opinion. So this is one angle. And then they have the other angle, which is we are all engineers and we are trying to engineer our way through this adoption technically without any people skills or any socio-technical approaches. And that won't work either. So this is this whole balancing act where we become hybrid people. This is what I read into the art.
And the art requires, like, we often talk about the multi or cross-functional teams. Like
all this.
So unfortunately, these guys have to spend more, probably 80% of our platform is like governance work.
Yeah.
And 20% is tech.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm exaggerating for you, but in general, there's a lot of, and when I say governance, I don't just mean like protocols, but like creating the policies and yeah.
And Olof, you're gonna help me pick apart proper governance. What do you mean proper? What makes something proper and not just governance?
I think for us, or for me at least, we have the innovation part, which is basically how do we come up with new ways of doing things in a smarter way or more efficient way. And the governance part is how can we scale this? How can we make it, governance sounds super boring, but it can also be quite engineering heavy in terms of resilience. You have the proper monitoring in place. You need to prove that it's secure. You can't just say, I know what I'm doing. It's safe. You need to be able to prove it and convince the right people that it is actually a good solution, a well-built solution.
And there's so many ways to define proper. I would immediately go to, I want to see computational governance. I don't want to see another PowerPoint governance model. I don't want to see another Excel sheet governance model. I don't want to see bureaucrats governance. I want to see computational governance, hardcore guardrails, monitoring, etc., etc. Or, if you have many agents, how do we observe them in real time? Yeah, this is not a paperwork governance anymore. Sure. So I read a lot into proper when and this is why I think it's a brilliant theme. How do you tell that story, or how do if you were going to explain, are we going to talk about innovation and proper governance, but you're going to go, you're in the elevator with the CEO or like one of the business unit heads. How do you talk about these things with the how should I put it, the normal banking people or the sort of business people? Are they fully into this or not, or do you need to figure out a way to express this? If we start with the theme, but just elaborating on it, what's the elevator pitch for this, and how we talk about it internally?
I think you need to start to talk to people who deeply understands the field. If you talk about IT security, or if you talk about data compliance or data privacy, or you need to bring the people who like know their field deep, because they are the ones that can best sort of assess whether what we want to do, that we have fit for proper governance for that or not. Because if you can convince those guys, then they will convince the others. But it's hard to like to talk to the average risk person who has not been exposed to AI or so, and start this conversation, because it's hard basically. But if you find the ones that really sort of truly understands like the risks and convince them, then you kind of get these network effects. If this guy thinks it's okay, then it should make sense, and then you follow the corporate processes. We have good processes in the bank,
as long as we understand how to use them.
But and that's what I mean by rewiring. Some of these you need to tweak a little bit. Like you cannot validate a model, an AI model, in the same way as you validate a credit risk model, for example.
Exactly. Yeah. But the fundamental idea is there, where you need to figure out how do you rewire to do what we're supposed to do for our context. I love it. And
you need to have people like they know what they're talking about. So I cannot go in and talk about how to deploy cross-region inference for us with the cloud team, but Olof can.
Yeah, and this is why this is also a little bit back to the whole thing we were talking about, doing a proper, how you need to have a cross-disciplinary team, and how it becomes very problematic when we have sort of the people talking about AI and adopting AI, which have an HR background over here, and the people adopting AI with a complete tech background over here, and then over here we have the real people knowing banking, and all of a sudden now, these three things need to work together. I mean, like, because it becomes very superficial, and this is why it's such an art, I think, as well. But I was going to ask you this theme. How my take is that the importance of this theme and the understanding of this theme, we need to work on it even, like with agentic and the way the trajectory is going now. I think you said it. We need to learn much, much deeper how we get coherence or integrate all these different parts. So my underlying question when I get to it is like, this theme, is it important in 25? Is it more important, less in, how we scratch the surface on this topic? Because I think it's a brilliant topic, but I think we're just looking at the beginning of how we need to do way more to understand this.
One thing that I am really proud of what we have done, and is kind of a no regret move that we have taken, is that we have built this platform. Because the learnings that we have gotten from stitching it together, I mean, we're not building everything, of course, but we're stitching together, and we're developing, of course, also, but stitching together components to make something like this come to life with actually thousands of users in the bank. The learnings that we have from this, knowing that we will not build all this stuff right in the future, we will sort of most likely kill much of our code
over time, yeah.
But build stuff. But I think the learnings that we have made as a team, I think, is super valuable to cut through the vendors, if you will,
cut through the vendors,
the products,
cut through the noise, cut through the mud.
The noise, exactly.
Because what I take out of that is one thing to put tech in product, put tech in a pilot or in a prototype and show it only to the board. It's a completely different ball game to take something out to 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 people. And when whatever robustness in terms of how we define product operations, etc., this is product to me. I mean, like, the technology side of this, if is so little to make this work. So the learning here is, of course, the meta product. All the stuff around this that you needed to figure out, that it's now sort of we have kind of a blueprint how to think about that, because we tested it with security, etc., etc.
I was going to say, I think it's not only the learning for us, but it's the learning for the whole organization. We've gone through the process with everyone. With internet security, with cloud team, with everyone.
And that is the real product work, in my opinion. I mean, like, so the tech work is super important, and we can build the tech from scratch ourselves. But it doesn't matter if you build the tech from scratch yourself. It's just a tiny piece that you then need to put the whole thing in a wrapper that works for the bank. So this is going to be a great conversation, because if we have that as some sort of backing point, so we can reference, we can use this a little bit as a learning case study. Please use examples all the way. So I really want to dig into this now, and I thought the way to start digging into that is a little bit like, if we take this project, we take this, let's call it product, the internal chatbot, and the learnings to take that from prototype to 5,000 users, and doing that with innovation, with governance, that gone through all the red tape, all this. My first question is a little bit like, what was the context of the AI Hub when you started, and what's the context where you've been working on this? I mean, like you literally changed reorg on Monday, so I guess it's an AI Hub thing you've been doing. Could you give the listeners and me a little bit of the context where this came about, how you're working with these things? What is the AI Hub where this started, so to speak?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit back to the story that I started telling, that where in the fall of 23 we presented a vision that we then tested on a number of pilots in 24 on laptops, that we then put into proper infrastructure, production infrastructure by end of 24. And then we started to build use cases on top earlier this year. So I think and because we did it in this way, we could also find the ways to apply fit for purpose governance. You put governance around the platform first.
So what do you mean with governance on the platform?
Yeah. So let me start with first. You have to have an LLM, right? Yep. So we have Bedrock. So we created an application for access to models via Bedrock. That's one application. Then you make sure that you have proper governance around that. That is according to Nordea's.
So now we're down into the technology, AWS, Bedrock, LLM, and now the first layer of that governance onion, so to speak.
Yeah,
it's basically how do we make sure that anyone who wants to access Bedrock can do so securely without the data going somewhere it's not supposed to go.
So that was hardcore at the core of how you use Bedrock, access management, data security type stuff.
A lot of networking discussions.
Yeah. And who is typically involved in that kind of conversation in the bank? You need to talk to the devil and his mother, right? Or how does it work?
I mean, we talk to
security,
cloud team, security, and to some extent, I think legal were involved as well. Then, GDPR.
Of course. So, and just to put the point, it's like, that's what you need to do. And if you're not ready to do that work, you're not ready to do this innovation.
And it's fairly well documented. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward process, but there's a lot of work to be done. So that was the first piece, and then you on top of that, then you put like the infrastructure, like where you have orchestration and you have user interface and you have databases and access management and so on. And then that's the platform. And then you do the same there. You do proper governance on that, and then you point to the first application, the LLM. We're going to use that for this, and then you sort of put the proper governance around that. That was what we did in the last, like a year ago.
And what does proper governance mean on that level?
I mean, it's pretty much the same, but it's maybe more because you still don't know what you're going to use it for, because the use cases come on top. So but you need to put enough governance for it so that it can, you can be safe that it's will sit in a good place in production and all the pieces. So you do the testing. And everything else. So that's that. So what I'm getting to is like there's a staged process. So and then you do use cases on top of that, and they also go through proper governance. So then it's like a layered approach, and when you're done, you don't you have done like governance in a layered approach, which is also very modular and very sort of worked well for us.
So, please.
Yeah, I was going to say that maybe it's worth highlighting also that I think the use cases for us were a big driver in like developing the platform. It's not like we just sat there and built our platform and then, oh, by the way, we should throw use cases on top of this. But rather they were part of the development, and that quite early on, we were having discussions with like, okay, how can we validate this and prove that this is actually built in a responsible way and behaves the way it's supposed to?
And what was the first use case that you use as your catalyst, or 2 or 3, or what if you now? How would you frame the use case at this point?
I mean, I think it was so. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but the use cases that we piloted on your laptop in 2004 was, some of them were then the first use cases on the platform. So we had one use case that is a chatbot for internal guidelines, and we have one use case that supports research.
Some for marketing.
Tone of voice.
So you had your use cases, but I think there's some big learnings here today. You took some sort of like modular or almost onion approach of how do we secure and govern the core, and how do we govern the orchestration layer, and how can we, now we've done that. So now we can add use cases on top without, I guess, redoing everything from scratch all the time.
The use cases can kind of leverage
they leverage it's truly a platform, self-service, but why did you go that route? Was that obvious to you from the beginning? Was it a lucky shot, or how did you get to that architecture? Because this is architecture to some degree.
I mean, I think you have to sort of slice the problem in smaller parts in order to solve the full thing. Trying to do everything at once, it would be hard for us, but I think it would be incredibly hard to sell to everyone else as well, to convince someone that this is safe. It's a lot easier to prove that smaller pieces are safe, and then you just always point to the previous work you've done.
Okay, so this is some fundamental patterns here, how to do that. This is super obvious. What is not always obvious is what's the smartest way to slice. So I think I haven't thought about it through, but instinctively, it's a pretty good way of slicing it. I can come up with other ways of slicing it, but I think that you have a core, because I have an onion picture at home somewhere of the AI compound system, and you're following it. It's this, I think it is some degree here. Okay, that's cool. And what was the context now? Did you do all this from within the AI hub, or how did you reach out your tentacles, or could you basically drive this from the hub as it was when you started this, or how did that work in practice?
I mean, the hub is in terms of FTEs quite small, so we have worked through others or with others and teamed up with agile execution teams and business teams and a bunch of different group functions. So it's definitely, we have been the orchestrator, I would say, and the driver, but we have been working also because we were not from the beginning saying we're going to be a big platform and we're going to have 10 use cases and we're going to have 10,000 users. We were like, as Olof said, taking step by step, and each step required an agile execution team and some some more people, but it was never like a huge factory.
But maybe you're triggering me all immediately into how this was organized step by step, because you have, now you even acquired the adoption title here. So we're having a situation starting on a laptop, right? And then what was the first, in what increments did you, because now I think you're about 5,000 using the platform, roughly, 3, 5?
Yeah. So I think like where we started was, I mean, now you're driving adoption, but we've been fighting for adoption for 2.5 years now, I would say. And for us, it started like, okay, where do we see potential? We went out on a roadshow, talked to I don't know how many people in Nordea we talked to. Feels like we talked to everyone. Mm-hmm. Everyone must have heard us talk at one point or another, and just understand the business, see what they do, and then from there try to put together some use cases to just showcase, okay, what's possible here? What could provide value?
So you started that journey literally before you had your first thing in production.
Oh yeah. And then with these like key like lighthouse use cases, we try to convince people like we can do this, we can scale this, this can become something useful, and then all the time trying to iterate, improve these use cases and prove to the organization like this is something worth betting on and trying. I mean, like you said, we've been a very small team in terms of headcount, so we tried to tap into resources wherever they were available. From time to time, it's been shorter term or longer term, and I think that was the road, and we're trying to scale from there.
So if we take this, I mean, because I think this is so much learning into this process, right? Because people are dreaming about it and they are fluffing around on it, but not that many has done it. I mean, like there's a couple of large corporates that are doing this, but it's still, it's one thing to have an enterprise license of OpenAI. It's a completely different ball game to start adding services and use cases onto it. So if you remember, you started, can you elaborate on the journey, how you got the sort of first ideation, and then what you got some budget to do it, and what was sort of the decision points or stepping stones from going from a laptop to 5,000 users, if you take a milestone or roadmap view on it, like how you sold it or how you approached it in some ways.
I mean, I can say it like this. We had an internal AI conference in November, October 20. It was right when whenever the Nordic Data Science and Machine Learning Summit was in 23. The fall, so October, November.
Yeah.
Olof and Philip was on stage, and they were demoing the first version or the first widely demoed version of it anyway. And they had a vision that we should put this in the hands of everyone in the bank, kind of brag solution.
I think already then the idea was to build something modular and something.
But the idea to do that, and then of course getting a lot of help from ChatGPT and everything else that people are using at home. So people were like already excited before we started, which is like
different.
Which is why Gen AI is is so hard and at the same time so easy, because you have people, they know what it is, they use it, but then it's hard because we don't have ChatGPT in Nordea. We have something that's something else. So you have to manage expectations. But so that was like, but then how you thought about the modular approach and everything, I don't know. I mean, you're gonna have to explain how you came up with the approach to it, because that was you and Philip.
Yeah, I think the key thing there was, I mean, the underlying models are general models. They can be used for anything. And I mean, for us, that's the hypothesis back then was that a lot of the business logic would be possible to hand over to the underlying models. And since it's general, that means that we can build a pretty general system that can handle a wide variety of tasks with only some quite simple configurations. And the next step was to prove that, which we did a few months later, actually. And that's where we showcased the first version of these I think it was around 5 different use cases we showcased.
And the decision making wise, there are budget or like enterprise decisions. We should have this service, some money involved, but it's also technical decisions here, architectural choices, and there are security decisions, and there are risk decisions here, I assume, or legal. So how did you navigate those decision arenas? Did they just come logically from, we want to do this, and then you go around the circle and get all the stamps, or how did that work for you guys?
So that's when I can contribute a little bit, even though I'm the old guy, because I've been around for a long time and I know people. So we were able to identify the people that were really sort of skilled and also could make decisions that will help us. So if we can convince them this is the right thing to do, they helped us, and we got a lot of help from security architecture, from legal, from compliance, from data privacy. It's like we found the people that also understood that this is going to be a thing, and we will help you.
So it becomes a huge co-creation effort, and, and it's about finding those key actors that want to co-create. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And so, I don't know, just to back out again, we are talking about innovation. We're talking about something that is super cool, but then we are talking about the onions of doing that proper. And so far we come up to with the modular architecture. And with the modular architecture, we can take a modular approach into governance. And with the modular approach into governance, it's also how we slice it and take the complexity down, I guess. That we can actually talk about one thing at a time with our stakeholders. Is that a fair summary so far?
Yeah, but I would also say one big driver was that we wanted to avoid any lock-in. Like we wanted to avoid locking ourselves into something that we didn't know was going to last. So being modular, being agnostic was super important to us, because who do you bet on? Who do you bet on today even? I mean, but back then, like, who do you bet on? We don't know. So let's put the pieces together ourselves. And whenever we're going to be betting on in a few years, we can go there.
Because that's it. You have confirmed it then. Because technically now you have made the governance like this. And now, okay, if I want to switch from one underlying model to another one, you can. Maybe, but still in Bedrock, I guess. That's going to be trickier if you want to flip.
It's going to be trickier.
The cloud provider, but that's also possible, I guess.
Yeah, I think we can.
Don't know how much.
Right now, it's Bedrock. I think that's all we can say.
Yeah. Okay, but the underlying topic is actually about the underlying LLM. That is actually quite replaceable if you wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one interesting thing I want to add there as well is, like, for this process, I think a key thing was also that as part of the development work for each phase, we had to keep track of what's the key enablers to initiate the next phase. And I think that was something we were really good at, which made the timeline to go from our demos to production reasonable.
Okay, but so if we back out of this a little bit now, because now we have a great use case and real innovation and real proper governed innovation, but it's one type of AI innovation in terms of the chatbot approach and the internal chatbot approach. So if I back out a little bit, like, how have you defined AI innovation? Is it this part? Is AI now in the bank? I remember how we talked about this. What is traditional AI? What is new AI? I mean, like, and it was and all of a sudden now it was almost easier because everything Gen AI or like which is using LLMs, that was AI, and now we can talk about machine learning over here. but how when you say AI innovation in the bank today? Are we talking about machine learning, or is that not part of the game anymore? Or how broadly do we have this storytelling today? I remember having this conversation years back, right? What is AI? What is analytics? Because it almost like it cleaned up a little bit, like AI is the gen part or the agentic part, and then machine learning, that's something else. I don't know.
I think for sure both are very relevant still. And to me, they're very, very top of mind. I don't think I can go into details here, but there are use cases in the pipeline that will for sure include both.
I'm super happy to hear that. I have a real problem when I get AI reduced to chatbots. I'm serious. There is the inference to take on AI. I think it's almost that. But for you, when you say AI innovation, how broadly do you cast the net?
I would put it like this. I would say that the innovation, we call it in AI innovation, but the innovation is like doing things in new ways with AI and data. So when we look at the business process today and we want to apply innovation, we look at the process and we want to understand what is the output, what is the required data, and then think like a startup. How would you design that process today with AI and data, machine learning or Gen AI or whatever? So the innovation is more like having AI and data first mindset. That's kind of the innovation. Like think about problems in an AI first approach. That is kind of, I think, what my team has. That is our contribution to this so far. So Olof is, I think you say that you do mainly sort of application. I mean, you're like a software developer. We have the AI. Someone else has already invented the AI. So it sits there. We can consume it and integrate it, and we can support business processes. And how you do that's kind of the innovation. So the innovation is more like how you think about the problems.
Yeah.
But that's like that. I can't say that we are there, but that's what I want to get to.
But do you agree, or do you have another angle on this, or do you want to add something to that?
I think it's a fair point. For me, I think of it very much like just it's one more tool that we can use to redefine, and in some areas that unlocks huge new possibilities that wasn't there before. Some processes probably should have been redesigned a long time ago, and they don't need this new fancy tool to do it. But for sure, it unlocks new things.
Because I want to test something, because I have struggled with this view, or actually not struggled, but I think I have somewhere grown into a more and more, well, what the hell do we mean with AI innovation? You know, is it even smart to lead with the tech into the question of innovation? Tricky one. But for me, the way, because I'm working with this today, and this is Derdak stuff I'm testing on you, but I'm with the latest views now of building agentic systems and where this is going product centric and all that. I realize, and I'm testing you, that I think we're going to a place where, first of all, innovation is always about the workflow. That's the problem, right? It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And now we have a very nice toolbox of techniques and technologies. But I have started to lean on John Bosch, one of the professors at Chalmers. He was at the pod. He said like 5-10 years ago, what is digitalization? And then he made a super simple definition that stuck with me: software, data, AI. Early. So if you can imagine what we are doing now when we are building AI compound systems, when you're building anything, there's part, when we say AI engineering, it's part software, part UX, part integration, and then it's a shitload of data, and by the way, knowledge and contextual engineering, blah, 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 blah. And then it's techniques, machine learning techniques, AI models, ML, LLMs, SLMs, TRMs, whatever you want to call this, right? So I'm getting more and more found of this Berkeley AI Research Lab AI compound system definition. Like, it's all systems, it's all products, and in the end, we need to, when we innovate with data and AI, but it's a damn software as well. Do you follow this logic? And and the reason I'm getting so passionate about this conversation is like, damn it, they don't understand. They think we can buy and fix a model and then it's done. So do you see what I'm talking about? And
yeah.
So because all of a sudden, why do you need a data engineer, a data scientist, an AI engineer, and a UX guy, and a software integration guy? That's the work. So that was a rant. But can I have your feedback or input on? Is that sort of, because this is what I'm used extrapolating what you said. I'm not sure we are talking about the same stuff.
No, I understand what you're saying. But don't you have a conference that's called AI and Data Innovation Summit?
The Data Innovation Summit. That's the core story here, right?
No, but so the way I think about that is that I agree that AI is a distraction and agentic and agents even more so. I deliberately didn't use the word agentic in my speech
I know that,
because I wanted to try to avoid it.
You're joking about it.
But then some other brilliant guy at another conference for another bank, he avoided AI also altogether. I think that helps, because I agree with you that it's not about the models and it's not about the agent. It's about the workflows.
But I don't want to diminish the AI stuff. I think this is really driving the innovation and all that stuff. It's just that it's not. You need the data, you need the context, you need the scaffolding, you need the UX. Of course, the AI is the core here that makes us doing completely different things.
But it's
also more.
It's also like it also confuses people that like if we like we collect a lot of use cases in the group, and we got like hundreds of use cases, and just because, you know, in some cases just because it has an AI in the heading, you know, it's there. But if you would remove the word AI, nobody would care about the use case.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, so instead of so that's one thing, like remove the AI, and you know, and then you may end up with problems that people care. Let's take problems that people care about and then apply the AI. So I see where you're coming from, and I think it's not about the model, it's about the operating model and how you kind of work together. And but I think we're in that phase now where, you know, we're still in the hype.
We're in the hype phase, right?
We are leveraging that.
We are leveraging
for sure.
hype. So let's not. So it's a matter of leveraging the hype. But if we want to do a proper job, if we want to do the real art of innovation and the real art of proper governance, we cannot. We can leverage the hype, but we are not allowed to fall in the trap, right? So and that is why, as you said, you need to have the real engineers around you. Otherwise, this doesn't work. And maybe a couple of different types of engineers even.
But I think also the hype will only take us so far. At some point, you need to start to prove value as well.
Yeah.
And I think that time is probably approaching rather fast.
It's going rather fast. And then we're back to basis. In what way did you innovate the workflow? It's nothing, right? I mean, like if you're not getting an innovation in terms of experience or productivity or whatever, or effectiveness. But it's hard, right? Because it to do it proper, then you need to really excel in innovating workflows. So it's very hard to be too far away from the core business. So you need to get that whole innovation topic then becomes, you need to be working very, very closely with the domain expert or the workflow owner, so to speak, right?
Yeah, you need to understand what you're going to redesign, and be very close to them to see the possibility,
I think you need
empower them to see the possibilities.
And you need like the everyday AI stuff. You need these co-pilots and enterprise agent, as our internal chatbot is called, and these tools that people get at their fingertips, because that will not drive ROI, maybe not in the short term anyway, but it will drive adoption, and adoption drives learning, and learning then takes you closer to Horizon 2, which is workflow and integrated AI. And I think you cannot go all straight to disruption. You have to sort of, with a large organization, you have to get adoption and get to sort of learning, and then get into integrated AI, and then you will see the value.
Can you slow down here? Because I had a question mark around the differences in governance and innovation when we talk about internal chatbots, co-pilots, internal enterprise systems, and even customer-facing systems. And I think you have a deeper model and view on this. I mean, like, it maybe doesn't fit perfectly to what I said, but you've been talking even at the conferences, I think, about your phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Could you slow down and take that? Because I think it's quite important. Because it also sets the arena for what type of governance are we talking about? What type of innovation are we talking about?
Yeah, so it's not anything sort of rocket science, but it's a way to divide stuff into different horizons, as we say. And the different horizons will have different requirements, and they will have different investments. They have different training needs, and they have different tech requirements. And so Horizon 1 is like your everyday AI, like these general purpose tools, Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude for Enterprise, that allows you to get individual productivity up. And that is right now maybe a way for you to save 30 minutes per day. I don't know, if you're skilled, maybe more, but it's not something that's gonna hit our cost income ratio this year or next year or
this is the personal productivity case. Super important for the comfort zone and super useful, but it's not enterprise grade AI core workflow reinvention. Yeah. That's the distinction you're trying to make here, right?
It's how you use ChatGPT at home, right? You're getting into it, and you're getting better, and you learn. And
So this is Horizon 1. I mean,
that's Horizon 1.
Why do we need that? Why do we need that?
Basically, you need that. You need that to increase your AI literacy. You need that to understand what.
You need to light up the art of possible in the heads of people.
Yeah,
You need to light the spark.
You're lighting a spark, right?
lighting the spark and understand that. One learning that I have done, one thing I'm proud of what these guys have done with enterprise agents, that they've been very feedback focused. They follow very closely the usage, what people like, what they don't like, and have a very structured way to let that drive the prioritization of the next features in the next release, which is about now for this one. So it's also a way. That's also important to understand what people really sort of what problems they want to solve and what integrations do they need. So that's also something that we learn in Horizon 1. And Horizon 1 to be scaled, you basically need to have fit for purpose governance.
For this style of
for this
product.
style, and then you can kind of scale.
Mm-hmm.
So it's. That's my view anyway.
So because this is super cool, because now we have a fit for purpose governance, and we to some degree we peel the onion on it, because that's the first Horizon AI innovation you've been doing. How would you now frame Horizon 2? What is that?
So then Horizon 2 is more the workflow optimization. So in Horizon 2, you look into a process that you care about and that you think can be improved, like an onboarding process or like a mortgage process, or more like some process that is sort of
Core workflow in the bank or in the whatever business you're in.
Yeah, claims process or something, and then you try to figure out how that can be, not how Gen AI can improve that process, but
to reinvention.
Yeah, try to reinvent. Try to almost like disrupt the way you do. Like think like how would a startup, if we had all the tools and we had the data? Oh, we have tools. Oh, we have data. Okay, we
it's
might
like
have,
how would Google do this process?
yeah, in the back in the bank. Now it's
in the
like
bank.
how would Lovable do this?
How would Lovable do this? I mean, like, but because what we're really talking
But that's
about here.
hard. That's hard, and that's where the agentic AI comes in.
As one technique, yeah.
Yeah. So but that's like the. It's interesting because a year ago, nobody talked about agentic AI. I don't know if you remember, but nobody talked about it. I mean,
I did.
Some guys did. Some guys did.
I've done it for
But if you
Data
listen
Innovation.
to-
You
if
can
you
listen to
listen-
Data Innovation Summit. I
Yeah,
talked about
yeah,
it for 2 years,
yeah.
but I'm early. I'm early.
But I mean, if you talk about like the consultants or LinkedIn, it was not a lot about tech. Even
you need to go to Data Innovation Summit to have the
I
real
was
stuff.
there. I was there. But anyway, but now everybody's talking about it, and I think it's just.
But now it's almost bullshit because we're overselling it in different ways. And when we, sorry, I'm used.
No, now it's a marketing term.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a marketing term.
So
Because what's so hard here? I mean, like, so let's really break down the innovation with the chatbot, the first Horizon. You're coming up with a cool technology, but then like, hey, it's up to you to be clever with your personal productivity today. Horizon 2 innovation is a completely different ball game because you cannot do that if you don't have deep domain knowledge and deep AI knowledge. It's impossible to do, in my opinion, if they're not working as one.
yeah, first of all, I would say even Horizon 1, I think you should equip yourself and the leaders of teams should also equip themselves with tools and incentives and KPIs and whatever to drive like change, because I think you can also get change with this productivity, this Horizon 1 stuff. So
you can teach them how to use tools better.
I
You
think
can
that
help them
yeah.
help use cases. You can find use cases that would benefit 5,000 in the bank, and in that way, yes, at some point. But I think what you're onto is the deep reinvention of core flows requires. If it doesn't matter how good understanding you have of the core flow, if you don't have the understanding of the art of possible. And vice versa, if you have the understanding of art of possible, but you don't know where and how to apply it or where the bottlenecks are. So this is why this ball game of innovation becomes slightly different, I think.
Yeah. And that's what I'm thinking about now, like as sort of focusing more on the adoption. How do you, like if you want to put together a team to do a Horizon 2 project, like what roles do you want to have there?
Oh, yeah. This is a good conversation.
Yeah.
Now we're talking AI innovation Horizon 2. This is, I've been ranting a lot around the difference between personal productivity AI and enterprise grade AI, and I've been giving people a lot of shit. When people understand the difference and they are treating it like that with respect, I think it's perfect. I think it's smart. But when we are starting to sell Horizon 1 like that's the shit, I get frustrated as hell. Do you see? Because I see that too much in the media. What do you think? Or am I too grumpy? I'm old grumpy, maybe.
But I mean, first of all, I think Gen AI is not that old. It's only, I mean, Gen AI might be older, but ChatGPT was in November 22. So let's say it's like...
I was just about to hit you on the fingers on that.
3 years? Huh? Yeah, I know. That's...
You saved yourself.
I'll take that. Can we remove that? But ChatGPT was released on November 30, 2022, and as like in general, it was started to be adopted maybe in 23, mid 23.
So we are so young.
So that's not that long ago.
No.
So you can't really expect people to be like in Horizon 2 already in general. But of course, some companies are there since a long time. AI first companies have been there for a while.
But I'm more. I mean, like, so maybe also chip in here, Olof, because I'm getting a little bit frustrated with the temperature on LinkedIn, the media conversation around this, where I think we are immediately having a very. I mean, here obviously we're going to talk about Horizon 1, Horizon 2, and I see a huge media circus that doesn't really distinguish between these two things. Or am I? Or maybe I'm over.
There are two sides to this. I think in one way, like for sure, there are some level of overselling today, but things also move so fast. So by the time they are adopted, it's probably not that overemphasized. I mean, look back at first version of Microsoft 365 Copilot, what they sold versus the reality. I think the discrepancy there was huge. But I think it's a lot. I mean, the improvements have been immense since then.
Yeah, but what are you saying? Do you think we can get to enterprise grade or Horizon 2 type innovation with just waiting out the personal productivity approach?
No, I think that's like the enterprise to me that applies a different scale. Implies a different scale. I think if we're on enterprise, then by definition, it's not just going to be what can improve. Even if I can become 10 times as productive, I don't think that's like an enterprise thing to me. To me, that would be like revolutionize the whole. And you mentioned like loan process. That's like an enterprise.
Because I made it hard for Derax. I didn't care about Horizon 1. I only been trying to do Horizon 2, and it narrows down the field who is ready for it, but it also drives trying to figure out how do we.
Now is your time, I think. Now is your time.
Maybe. But
we're getting there.
I'm getting there, but I think also the difference in understanding what it means to do enterprise grade innovation and we're getting there very fast now. We're maturing very fast.
Some are getting there, I think.
No, and the interesting point is having fantastic conversation with organizations who are in a way not data savvy as a legacy, but are asking me, we don't want the co-pilot. We want to do, how do we industrialize and think about this? We need to get on the game, not to do everything, but we need to learn how to do core workflow innovation. Not to be perfect at once, but actually explicitly stating a Horizon 2 type. Can we start working on that?
But I think that but then Horizon 1, you can do also. Data is important, so you need access to data, and if that data is not in order, you have less use of it. But in Horizon 2, it's even more, right? So I saw some interesting study that they measured. They had a bunch of banks, and they saw how they had moved in terms of productivity. I can't remember exactly how they measured, but it was productivity. How much they have moved productivity from the ChatGPT movement to now, moment to now. So within the next 2 to 3 years ago, how have these banks, or relative to each other, then moved? And the conclusion was that the banks who had spent a lot of time before ChatGPT on getting their data in order, they have obviously been able to quickly capitalize on that when the new technology came. I think that was a sort of
but I'm getting
thing to me to think about. It's still back to the
because with
data.
enterprise grade, then we're so much back to data again, right?
I was going to say, Mattias, do you think that is due to that they had their AI or their data in order, or do you think it's due to like improved data literacy that came with the sorting out your data?
That's a good one. That's a
I
good
didn't
question.
understand. You have to say it one more time.
No, please. I think I got it, but that was
too
pretty.
smart
But it was too smart for Martin.
So, like you said, basically that organizations that had sorted out their data, their productivity increased more relative to their peers when they got access to AI tools. And the question then is, it's not because they had their data in order, or because they had the mindset or had learned how to work with data or how to sort out their data.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
But because it's probably both, right? Because on the one hand side, I see how we can go deeper on a little bit techy on this. Because on the one hand side, sure, you sorted out your data, but in the end, this is all compressed tabular data, and in order to do proper AI, you need knowledge.
You need to pipe things together.
You need to pipe things together. You need a graph. You need context engineering, right?
Exactly. You need the access control.
So the point is this: just because you know what your data is just half the battle. Then you need to know the relationships. So when you worked heavily with this for 5 years to sort out which table is joined with what, this is knowledge, and now you have context engineering at your fingertips, and that was your point.
Yes.
So maybe so
this is cool stuff.
Good question. And now I understand it. But it probably has to do then with being like, data savvy, or understand how you make data consumable for AI, like the whatever. If it's like data in order, understanding how to pipe the data or whatever it is. It's like your data literacy. If you have good data literacy, and then you're faster to scale.
Yeah, but you are putting now a very, very interesting spin on data literacy, and I'm not sure everybody who's doing data literacy courses, up on the street here, because you're really now talking not only about data literacy, in the sort of in the general business intelligence, know your analytics or whatever. You're talking about understanding relationships, understanding the difference between knowledge versus compressed data circulation. And I think this is data literacy, and I think this is context engineering, and this is what we should be talking about. But I don't really see that in a data literacy program in general. You're way beyond in maturity in terms of how you talk about data literacy. Am I over? I think you're on the money, but is that what we are meaning when we say, we have a data literacy program?
Yeah, I guess it could mean, just as you have an AI literacy program, it could also mean a lot of things. It's about being, talking about whatever is most relevant to you. We talk a lot about data products. Everybody talks about data products, but what is data? Or like, what is it? Like, what is it? I thought about this a long time. When the hype came with what was it called?
Data mesh.
Data mesh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've been deep in that paradigm.
3-4 years ago, was it 4 years ago?
I mean,
O'Reilly came out with this book, and I thought, that's it. And then I thought a lot about it, but then I think not much has happened in general since then. But
it's different in different places.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
and maybe that's the point. I mean, maybe you have to make it yours.
But you have to make it yours. My data question, I fell into the whole context engineering. It's so obvious, but I haven't really understood it deeply enough until maybe one and a half with agentic, with the whole that story. How we need to really differentiate between what is, the traditional data or compressed data points versus knowledge. I mean, like, of course we knew about ontologies and knowledge graphs and all that. But I think for me, it has shifted a little bit, like how we need to know this much better or understand this much better or have different techniques and how we are doing that. To some degree, when we started doing RAGs and from RAGs to vector, I mean, all of a sudden it becomes obvious, like the digital twin doesn't work on data alone. It needs to have relationships. It's kind of obvious. But have you shifted here? Because I'm right now, like, I'm getting humbled again. Oh, I know data products, so I know everything I need to know for AI. I need knowledge product, I'm back to humble. I'm super humble again on the knowledge dimension. What do you say? I mean, like, Olof, this also.
I mean, I think the field moves fast. So if you're not humble, you're going to be left behind. Yeah. I think rather fast.
Yeah, because I'm ranting a little bit here. I'm searching myself for what is happening here. Data, we knew data products, and all of a sudden now innovation here with AI. And I think this is the enterprise grade story. When we're getting into Horizon 2, data becomes super important. But what is data? What is knowledge? Or what is different techniques that we haven't even touched, some of us? I mean,
the MCP has been all the hype for a year, I guess, since it was released. And with that, there's come like new challenges. So first it was like, oh, this is the best thing ever. And then people will realize like, oh, wait, this is actually rather token heavy. Yeah. And all the models, I mean, that you talk about knowledge, they can only take so much knowledge before it's full. And then you need to remove something and put something new in. And if it's filled with protocol overhead or unnecessary stuff, you need to be smart about how you trim that out.
Well, let's go here, because we're talking about we are going in from chatbots to Horizon 2, which I think is cool. And we're talking about doing proper innovation. It's not only it's all this, right? So what is your sort of learnings going down this rabbit hole with, I mean, like, let's take protocols and knowledge and context engineering and knowledge graphs a little bit. You spin 2 cents on that, because I think for me, this is like what I'm trying to get to. This is AI compound systems. Wow, this is where we're innovating right now, and this is not only the model. So can you please help us?
Yeah, I mean,
old boys to follow.
You have limited space, and you need to make sure you use it usefully. I think there's been a lot of interesting development now during the autumn, but like tool search tools, where you don't give all the tools to the models directly. You let it search for tools, so you don't blow up the context window, or you use code instead of chain things together. I think that's also super interesting. I think if we think of it like looking at tabular data, that can be a lot of data very fast. And if you're going to present all of that tabular data, that's probably not what the LLM is actually interested in. It would much rather look at some sort of aggregate metric or do the analysis. It wants the output. It doesn't want the raw data. And I think a lot of data pipelines, and there's been a lot of involvement there during the autumn.
So how could we summarize this? Could we summarize this that, okay, we have some models, small or large. We have some MCP things going on. We have some scaffolding and really clever engineering how we want to do things. And then we have data, and we have the compressed data, and then we have the relations and vector graphs or whatever. So for me now, it becomes this is why I think it is several moving parts, and we haven't even. And then you have
you have like the like sub agent setup where you try to divide and conquer the whole problem. It's again, you take the whole thing and split it up into smaller parts, because the smaller parts are easier to handle. And
then we're coming back to Mattias' question, what's the team here? That's sort of, because it's obvious to me now that this is we're getting into several. Is it one engineer who can be a unicorn around all this, or how do you see this?
Most likely not. I mean, humans also have limited knowledge to some degree. But I think the thing is today, with a lot of the tools that become available, you can do a lot with few people if you have the right tools, because they can really emphasize and like help you do more.
Yeah, and this has to be a lot of experimentation to stitch this together at this point, right?
Okay.
This is not out of the box at all, I think, when you get to this level.
I mean, when you get into our company and I think a lot of the cool stuff we see out there, people are like, oh, I built this amazing system, you know, I just hooked up this MCP server and wow, that sounds great. Let me check how many of our internal systems that have MCP servers. It's pretty close to 0. But that does not mean that we can't build them.
But how do we see the difference in governance between, I mean, like, because we're talking a little bit like, okay, we need to do proper governance. I think you nailed and to some degrees figure out the pattern for Horizon 1. And I think you can scale that, you can tweak that. But you've done the hard yards now to get that to work, and you can leverage that. How do you need to think about Horizon 2 governance? I mean, like, have you gone there in your head, even thinking about, do you have any use cases which is sort of pushing you? Because now you need to have governance around the MCP stuff. You need to have governance around the context engineering. You need to have, even if multi-agent governance. Have you gone there at all? Because I think we don't. I don't think anyone has properly, right? So how do we experiment in this? Well, I'm super humble.
Yeah, I think there's actually a lot of opportunities here, and there of course are a lot of engineering challenges, but I have a feeling that we can work our way through this.
I think we can too.
That I'm quite confident on. The most interesting part, and I think this should be right up your alley, Mattias, is like we get back to like the responsibility,
ownership,
and the ownership and the accountability.
For what? Concrete.
If we do Horizon 2, we completely rework a process from scratch. It's like, okay, this is the ideal state. Everything just works. A lot of autonomous parts. Who's accountable when this goes wrong?
But this is because
that's going to be the tricky part.
No, it's not tricky part. I mean, like, so this is of course it's super tricky, but this is my ball game that I've been doing the last 2 years. I think you need to start within the agency of the team agency. So when you have bad agency around how the workflows are set up, you have systemic stupidity. Good luck bringing AI into that mix. So as you are growing into the fundamentals of what is the agency of this agent and this multi-flow agency, the only way we can make that work in the old bank or whatever is that at the same time understanding who is the domain owner, what's the agency of this workflow, who has ownership of this workflow, and ask those questions and allowed sort of a team agency, human agency, and artificial agency getting aligned. But then you can understand, okay, within these boundaries, now I can work on my decision data workflows, and I can add agency into this. But if you're not thinking about agency of the team and the mandates and the decision mandates at the same time, you're going to have who owns this, and you're going to have a blast radius you hadn't thought about. Do you see what I'm going?
Yeah, I see. And I think it's interesting also because you, to some extent, you draw the parallel to like, well, it's just another coworker or just another team and something into the existing organization. Or do you disagree with that?
No, yes and no. I mean, like I had Cassie Kusorkov, decision intelligence director, whatever. She said that, first you have personal productivity, and then in the end you have enterprise guard. I mean, like when you go enterprise grade, you're going to get back to the safety net, she calls it. And typically what I'm talking about now is like, even if you theoretically can build an agentic workflow that goes across many different mandates and decision mandates, it's going to be a nightmare to get that done or manage or govern that. So the way to learn about this is to basically start working on the agentic team agency. I think the person is too small. I think we can talk about team functions. And when you put that into the mix here now, okay, we need to be cross-disciplinary teams, fixing the workflow, fixing the data, fixing this and this and that within lending, within some, risk credit decision. I'm just making it up. So you can build a frame around that. And I think it's the sort of interim how we understand this together. Then you will figure out after two when you've done that, that is a fairly stupid way we cut that agency. We should probably cut these teams differently. But I think it's tricky when the agency of the teams and the managers are not aligned with whatever technology agency we're putting together. So I don't see how it could work safely without going that middle step.
Do you have other restrictions on how you put together like a team of humans versus a team of agents?
No, I don't. I think I haven't thought about that. I mean, like, so a team of. So when we talk about proper agency, you need to have purpose, mastery, and autonomy within the team, right? So you need to have, like, so we have cut organizations, division of labor, everybody of the same flavor, business controllers over here, everybody of the same flavor over here, and and now we're having ping pong from hell. And I think like domain-driven design, microservices, we need to have an agent-oriented view of separation of concerns, and we need to master within that agency. So then you're starting to cut the old views of organization already. So I think this needs to happen at the same time. So in essence, then you can do this virtually. You can have the AI hub, but you need to then look into a domain. But I think this is really, really tricky with agentic systems if you're not getting the agency right.
For sure.
Does it make any sense what I'm saying? Because I think this is hard stuff to imagine, really. But
no, I mean, I think we are discussing these things internally a lot now. I mean, in one sense, it is similar. Like if you're an individual, you have a standard operating procedure that you read from. This is how I do this job. That's kind of the governance. And then if you have a process for how we do evaluate loan applications for a certain segment of customers, you have like policies and procedures for that. So for these, how they suit them. Then we have applications, application owners. You have protocols for how you run applications. You have protocols for how you run platforms. But there are some new things coming in now with like agents. So you have agents for individual productivity, like I create a bunch of agents that I use in my daily work. And then you have agents that maybe work more in an integrated workflow. So you need to, back again to the rewiring, I think you just need to make sure that we have, I don't know exactly how, but I think you need to just work out how the existing governments that we have also ensure that we can do this properly. And I also know that there's a lot of like solutions being also developed for this, like Microsoft is developing how do you monitor and govern, agents, and other platforms have the same. So
but let me
and it's just a work, I mean, it is workflow with microservices, and you need to make sure that you have governance around those microservices. So to some extent, like we have robots today, we have 400 robots. Each robot has a human owner to sort of ensure it has the accountability for that specific RPA robot. It's been around for a while. But I think you will have some similar structure in the future where you have to have clear accountability for the agents. And in here, I also would like to say that this human in the loop is a little bit of a dangerous word, because human in the loop kind of implies it's safe, but what does it mean to have a human in the loop? How is it applied, right?
But I mean, like, so I've been going down a data mesh rabbit hole for 5 years, you know that. And we're talking, it stems back to Eric Evans' domain-driven designs, kind of ideas from microservices and all that. And
product owners.
The data product owners. And what we're talking about here, it's
AI product owners.
Yeah, it's interesting because head of research, Mikael Klingvall, that works with me, we've been framing and discussing agent-based organization before agentic got all the spotlight, right? And it's fundamentally the point of how we are describing the way we put agency around teams in an organization. So we were going at it already. When you're doing domain-driven design, you're starting to build ownership around the product, around connected to a business domain, and within that workflows. So we've been doing this, trying to build a lingo to try to wrap our heads around what is agentic design, what is agentic design of technology. What does that mean in terms of designing mandates and organization? How can we have one type of organizational model that is not agentic but matrix or whatever we are doing over here, and then we are trying to do something. So I think this we were at EFPL at one of the university in Switzerland and said agency rules that this is 1.5 years ago, 23, where we were trying to say these are I think these are design principles for how you design organization and teams, but they also apply hardcore how you build safe and governed safe agent workflows with a managed blast radius, so to speak. So where do you cut the start and end of an agentic workflow? Do you do one monolithic agentic workflow, or do you do 3 steps with ways to look into what they're doing and have evaluations at the top? These are fundamental agency topics and how you cut it, right? And I think this becomes super important both for man and machine. I mean, like, so I'm sorry for ranting, and you should be talking. But I mean, like, this is Horizon 2 stuff. I think it is.
Oh, for sure.
Is agentic the main? I mean, like, so we are going into future outlook type questions now, and I had agentic systems and context engineering as my driving interest, and we ended up by just having fun in that rabbit hole. Is that one of the big topics that we're thinking about when we say Horizon 2? Or is it something, other things around the corner we haven't thought about? Or is this, to me, this is kind of what I'm imagining right now when we say Horizon 2.
Yeah, and I think another question is like, what is Horizon 3? And what is the difference between Horizon 2 and Horizon 3?
I forgot about Horizon 3, to be honest.
Oh, what is that then?
Yeah. I mean, it's a way of saying that what happens, which we saw a few weeks ago when OpenAI launched ChatGPT for apps. Like, what happens when you do your consumer loan application in ChatGPT?
Completely shift the whole advertising game, completely shift the whole e-business game.
So like, how do you think about that as a bank or as a whatever you're selling?
So Horizon 3 then is when you are thinking about fundamentally completely different business models out of this game. So we're not on an agentic way fixing workflows in the bank, but all of a sudden we flip the whole market logic of some kind.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
I think so. No, but I think it has to do with business models.
Horizon 2 you could define quite sharply, but this one is more blurry. But it's there. It's definitely there. But how to put the name on it? Is that where you're at? Or do you have a name? I think what you did now was a good example, but it's hard to sort of frame it now.
And I think you need to. That's why I think you need to go through, like, as an enterprise.
Yes.
200 years old, with sort of consisting of many other banks and constellations. You have to kind of go through 1 to 2 to get to 3. It's or not, but I think it's hard to go straight to 2 or straight to 3, because 1 and 2 is where you learn a lot, and I think.
Do you agree with that, Olof? Because me and Anders Arpteg, who is not here today, we have debated this a couple of times.
Oh, really?
In a different flavor, but I'll tell you. But do you need to go through the hoops? Do you need to go through the levels?
I definitely want to say that for a company like Nordea, yes. I don't see how you could leap from 0 to 3.
But 0 to 2 then? Why do we need to do the chatbot thingy to do work? Why can't we just do workflows?
I think you can go from 0 to 2. You just need to bring in people that probably have done one somewhere else.
Me and Anders was always into, you can go to operational AI without going through BI data analytics journey. So he was saying, like, you can use machine learning for putting a camera somewhere, or you can do some cool operational AI cases very narrow. This is 5 years back. And he's right. The way I thought that even in Vattenfall back in the day, I was like, you know what? We need to do BI. And we need to have good BI self-service just to get people curious about the data and asking why questions. And when they ask why questions and they start understanding it, we get to more advanced questions. And I think I was right. And it's not that you have to, but it's the art of possible is to move the goalpost in sync with the adoption, absorption capacity or something like that. Yeah. That's why.
I mean, do we have any examples of course, like an enterprise that have gone from?
Not a large one. A small one, yes. A small one you can start from a different angle, right? So, but it's slightly different now because I was doing the BI to analytics to machine learning journey, and here we're talking about chatbot generative AI versus core workflow reengineering. Maybe not completely the same. I mean, like the same logic that we're maturing.
Because I think it's like my experience, again, I'm the old guy, my experience that it takes years to change behaviors in large organizations, like I think any organization. Some are faster movers, maybe, some are slower, but in any organization to get change of behavior, even I think in Google or Microsoft, like, you know, he launched this don't be a know-it-all, be a learn-it-all. And I think he transformed the company, but it took a while. And I think it's the same for us or any other. So I think it will take time. I think it will take time at least.
I think Goran needs to sort out AI news because I need to go to the toilet. Okay. I didn't do this properly before we left, and I'm alone.
You have done.
How many episodes had you done, you said?
Well, thank you, Henrik, for giving the mic. Welcome to... All right.
It's time for AI News, brought to you by AIAW Podcast.
So how are we doing?
I don't know. I guess you have prepared some news for today. Is there something that you have...
yeah, we talked about it, yeah.
All right, perfect. So let's start with that.
Yeah. But how are we doing, you think?
We're doing great. Awesome. I have a lot of questions actually for you because I think this AI enablement title is it's popping up rather frequently right now. And I think it's a very important transition role into moving from a technical technology-based innovation to business-led innovation. Yeah. So we will talk about it later. But now for the AI news, let's. Is there any news that you would like to share?
Are we?
Yeah, we are. Oh. It's full life.
Cool.
So we read, it was 2 days ago now, I think, that so for anyone who has missed, AWS have their annual conference re:Invent, right? Yeah, it's live right now. It's a big shebang. And they launched some new language models. And we're always excited about new language models, especially ones that we can easily access and experiment with. So they launched their new Nova 2 family of models.
Yep.
They promise good price, fast inference, and reasoning, which should... we haven't tried them out yet.
Is it available in Europe?
I have to be honest, I have not checked.
That's actually...
But I hope so. I would be extremely disappointed if not. We have tried out the first generation of Nova models, and they were cheap and fast, yes, and to be honest, quite useless.
So if these are cheap, fast, and high-performing, it can be huge.
Yeah, improvement would be fantastic.
It seems like they're available in Europe as well, so...
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, you can...
Then we have to try them out.
Yeah. Matthias, do you have any news?
There's so much. I mean, one thing I mentioned here was this app, ChatGPT apps, but that's old news. That's weeks ago.
Oh, that's ages ago.
I know.
That's like more than 2 months ago, or almost 2 months.
But I think that one interesting news, recent news, I think, was that Anthropic's now had this partnership with Microsoft. So they are getting available through Microsoft their models, and I think just recently they also made a partnership with the Snowflake. So also sort of integrating. So I guess what we're seeing is that those guys are becoming integrated parts of these platforms that we as enterprises use, but also that they go straight to to companies now, right? So you see both OpenAI and Anthropic, developing value propositions and also offering services direct to enterprises, which I think is very interesting. So there was some news earlier this week, I think, or not, maybe that was not news, but it was in the news about BBVA working with OpenAI, and I think there's many others also in Europe now collaborating. So I think there's a lot of stuff happening in the market that you kind of have to think about how things fit together with the hyperscalers and these data platforms, and then so you have OpenAI, Anthropic, and then you have Microsoft, Google, and AWS, and then you have Databricks, and you have Snowflake, and this is all like becoming a very dynamic ecosystem. Something happening almost every week.
Yeah, super good. Before I give you the mic, I just want to tell you, I told you so. You saw that ChatGPT released the shopping module, right? So in the end, it was all about like who's gonna get portion of the Google's empire about like search and shopping. So in the future, you will find most of this actually what is called LLM big providers going into e-commerce and shopping and etc. because that is where the money is. But now they have Gemini 3, so that came
exactly.
So I think that Google is actually taking the fight back. There was news about like some old man pushing the red button, being a little bit like, oh wait, these guys are not far behind anymore. Now it's becoming a little bit serious, and he needs to. And there was another evaluation about how much money do they need by 2030 just to sustain the development of OpenAI, and I think it's going to, if they don't find a new revenue model that will up the revenue, I don't think they will make it. Yeah,
I also read about the code red in OpenAI, the rumors about that, and I thought that was fascinating given that Google had code red 3 years ago.
3 years ago,
about that.
2 years ago or something like that. But I mean, of course, OpenAI will not disappear, so that is not the case. You never know. There are bigger giants like that, like Kodak and stuff that they have went back. But it's interesting how the dynamics actually change very fast. So it's you should not be rooting for anyone at this point of time. Things are changing, so very interesting. From me, one question: what is AI enablement title when you have a chance? If we have a chance to go through it as a question a little bit later on. All right.
AI adoption.
Enablement.
Adoption.
Okay.
Wow. So I think in 172 episodes, I had to do 2 or 3 breaks. Never alone though. That was problematic because it's easier to.
We're prepared, like we're pros.
But you know what? Me and Anders had the bet. Who will win? We had the bet for like 50 or 60 episodes. Who will be the first one to break character? That one I won.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think there is a segue here even into back to governance around innovation here. Because what we've been going around here with agentic systems, and a little bit of what we talked about, this is the data, this is the software, and all this. I've been thinking a lot about, does this mean AI governance, data governance, and software governance needs to converge? Do they even to the point of how we look at those 2-3 topics? Are they different things, or are they different facets of the same thing? How do we understand that? Because for years we've been having, in a large organization, you would have DevOps, you would have practices and someone governing in the way you want to manage your software. And then we've got data governance as a huge industry and function in a bank. And you have some people working with data governance. They are close to compliance. So they need to fix according to what's the newest BDS, whatever. So this is a definition of what is data governance that lives in a bank. And here we've been entering into the topic of AI governance. And where all these software governance, data governance, AI governance, they've been living to some degree in different parts of the organization, and you can go broader with security and all that. My thesis has been, I'm not saying they are converging. I'm saying they need to be very, very coherent and work as one. So as a system, they are one. Have you thought about these things? Because this is where I'm seeing we're going with agentic, as an example, with Horizon 2, as an example. That how we look at governance and those different aspects, at least very coherent.
I have a few thoughts about this, actually.
Please.
And what I think is funny you mentioned, but I think it's interesting you mentioned DevOps there. To me, in one way, like the AI governance, or like if you do normal software development without DevOps, you can do that. It's probably not going to scale amazingly. It's going to be hard. And it's similar for us, I think. If we try to do AI in the bank without governance, you can do that, but it's not going to scale. So to reach the scale, it's definitely needed. And I think, you talk all about the system as a whole.
I think so.
And it's about the system governance.
It's a AI component system governance.
That's the interesting part. That's going to be like, there might be an AI component in the system, and that might require some things that are not required otherwise. But in the end, it's the system that needs the governance. And a lot from an engineering perspective, I think the governance is just make sure you build a good, reliable, trustworthy system that does what it's supposed to do in a secure way.
What do you think, Mattias? Because this is not converging, but hell of a lot closer in terms of understanding each other and working as one than we are doing today.
Yeah, I think you have different levels. I mean, for example, you have regulation, GDPR, you have AI Act, DORA, whatever. You have different regulations covering like digital, covering data, covering AI, right?
So this is the umbrella, right?
Yeah.
This is okay.
So
Go on. I like it.
And then you have like your company. Like we have a risk appetite. We have and that is defined somehow, and that risk appetite kind of governs how the policies and procedures that we develop for data, for AI, for other things. And that becomes our system in the bank, risk taxonomy and our guidelines and policies and protocols and SOPs.
But this is okay. When you say SOP now, have we reached code yet, or are we still in documents?
I mean, policies that is then converted into code potentially. But
when you say SOP,
bear with me. So this is, and then you have me. I want to develop a product. I want to develop a platform. Then you have this process where you start by doing some kind of risk materiality assessment, like this product. You have these checklists. You go through whatever you have in your company to where you kind of firstly assess what is the risk with this product from a data, from a
all vectors.
Yeah, and they are all kind of embedded in this thing, right? And then you come up with, you have a higher risk in the, data area because you're using, for example, PII data, or you come up red in the AI because you're going to use it for something that is considered high risk, or whatever it is, right? So the regulation and the internal risk taxonomy and structure puts the requirements on like the process you have internally, and that process needs to have everything embedded. So me as a user, which is actually something that we're working on to make it more and very intuitive to navigate from like an idea to a pilot to production and to scale. So I think it's that process that you need to work on to be able to make it. And I think the more you bake into it, and the better.
Okay. So
Otherwise, you have to go first to the data team, data privacy team. You have to go to the AI experts, and then you have to go to the software. You won't avoid that, right?
I think you did a couple of things now that I want to break down, slow down, because there are two very important topics here. First of all, you started to talk about, in my opinion, governance or risk management by design. And what I mean with that is the whole idea of shifting left, of doing things, figuring things out early in the process. So from an ideation, from a development, shift left is back to software development lifecycle, and it's back to we should do the things in the right order when they make sense to be done. And what you're highlighting now is that you're looking at the process. And when you say a process, you're talking about the ideation to putting an idea into a prototype into large-scale production.
Well,
is that the process you're referring to?
Well, it's a bit more complex. It can be that.
Yeah.
But it can also be I want to switch on some Gen AI feature on my, Adobe platform, or on my in my application. Now I can switch on this Gen AI feature to generate images. Or generate text or whatever it is, right? So it can be like I want to create a new product. It can be I just want to switch something on, or it can be I want to create an agent.
Actually,
there are different sort of
yes
angles coming in.
But wait, principle is the same. It's from going from idea to production, and the simplest idea is to switch on a feature that already exists. That's from idea to production on a feature that happened to exist. But from a risk perspective, I don't think there's any difference. It might be a much more lighter version, but you switching on that switch to say, "Oh, we're going to have co-pilots and everything," from a fundamental point, from a philosophy. Sorry, is it the same or not?
I mean, it's the underlying risk framework is the same, but the residual risk is much different, right? That's what you always have to. Whenever you go through this process, you need to figure out what is the new risk that I'm taking on, and how do I mitigate that risk? So if I switch on, I now enable so that I can search in my database for data. It's something that helps me find data. It's the AI thing. That's like little residual risk, probably. But now, or compared to now, I'm going to build a platform.
But here now, I have such huge respect for the banking sector, and you are talking about risk and discussing these topics on a different level than Scania manufacturing, because you use the word residual risk now. So you're talking about how you understand. Can you define residual risk? I'm learning, Mattias, right now. This is awesome.
I do think that other companies have it as well, but maybe.
But you are drilled in it.
But if you introduce a change,
yes,
that change comes with a risk.
Yes,
or it doesn't. But usually there's some change, which means you need to consider potential new risks.
Yes,
and you need to ensure that you mitigate those risks, so you end up in a sort of a tolerable state. A state where you can tolerate.
Yes.
So, that might be from a data or an AI or a usage or whatever risk.
So why is flicking a switch in this example a less residual risk if I'm trying to learn and understand how you're thinking about this? I think you're right. I'm just learning.
When you evaluate in risk, you evaluate like the probability and the impact.
Yeah.
The probability that it will happen.
Yes.
And the impact that it will have.
Yes.
And I think in lower risk cases, you will always have lower impact, right? Financial impact, reputation impact, whatever it is.
But it doesn't have a flick of a switch can have a huge risk, by the way, then, because you miscalculated it. So I'm not sure it's by.
Well, it depends on like what the use case is about.
Because I can imagine a product from scratch that is fairly safe to put in, even if I use the RPA, perspective, it's an agent. It's a very dumb agent, but it was an agent.
But
so
it's
you're
rule-based, right?
So what I'm saying is you put in a product, you're doing something that looks cool on the outside with multi-agent, blah, 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 but you're putting it into a fucking stupid... I'm doing it for categorizing the Christmas cards at Nordea. I'm doing a very cool workflow to improve the life of the Christmas card delivery in very little risk. Yeah, while I'm flicking
I
on.
don't know, but I mean that could have a reputation risk if you get it wrong. So that's what I'm saying. So in a customer-facing use case is usually you have to be more careful with if you have an internal use case. So level of autonomy. And sort of
customer facing is a good one.
It is
to show.
So high level of autonomy and customer facing.
Boom, boom. Yeah.
Low level of autonomy, internal, less risk. Generally.
What I really like with this conversation now is that, and we should we've been collaborating and working a little bit with RISE together with Scania on how to understand.
You used to work for Scania.
Yeah. I remember. We can talk about that later. But we've been talking about how to understand the AI Act assessment, and not what to assess and how to assess it, and all that. We can come to that question later. But one of the key topics that we've been going into is to take an AI compound system view and talk about risk vectors. I'm not doing anything in relation to how you understand what's the traditional way of understanding risk, but we're getting there that the way to look at compliance should be to look at risk, right? We are doing all this compliance ultimately to compliance by design ultimately should be compliance regulation is there for us to be more risk conscious as an objective, right? So to take the whole risk management approach and look at the risk vectors, this is what I'm hearing, that to have proper innovation and proper governance, yes, compliance, but what you are much more on the money. What I love to hear is risk management. When you say proper governance, you're talking about risk, not compliance.
Yeah,
Which I love.
Yeah, okay, good. Compliance is like second line. They are ensuring that we are.
Compliance is there to push us to be risk conscious when we are too.
Yeah, they are there to help us to ensure that we are where we should be. Basically. And if we're not, then they will tell us.
But this is, I don't know. But for me, this is a profound moment because it's so easy to get hooked up on what is the compliance stuff, and we need to do that. Of course, we need to be compliant and all that. But if we are treating it as a tick box exercise, we're missing the point, and we want to do.
That was my point earlier. But like, you need to embrace it.
You need to embrace it, right? And if you want to talk compliance by design, you're actually talking about risk management by design. You're not talking about compliance by design. In order to build something that is compliant by design, you need to be sharp on risk management by design. I think. That's what you said.
Yeah, I think I agree. I need to just try to follow you along. Yeah.
So in order to be smartly safe and smooth, if you are really, really good at risk management, there's another way. There's an iceberg, another metaphor for what we're talking about now. When we draw an iceberg, we have the value and we have the risk about underneath the water. So one way of looking at your risk vectors is ultimately your value vectors too. If you want to build a good system that has, you can fuck up value in the model, in the data, in the UX. I think it's the same. If I take the iceberg analogy and you have a smooth to do the right innovation with the right value, has above the line value and below the surface risks. And if you do that right, you should be fine with your regulation. Oof, this is big stuff.
Yeah. The tricky part is it assumes the regulations are clear and well defined.
But then we come to the next level problem. Because then we get to legal uncertainty and shit like this. But, let's go here. I had a last question. I mean, like we're really moving into future outlook of what this is going. We're going down rabbit holes, but there is some logic here. We are following innovation, and we're following innovation in the proper way. And with proper way, we're talking about governance, and proper way of governance, future outlook view on the same thing. What happens when we put 1,000 agents in motion? You know, I mean, we haven't even started Horizon 2 properly. We're going to go Horizon 2. We're going to start with agents. And then we're imagining Horizon 3. I'm just imagining a shitload of Horizon 2. What are we not doing? Or how does our ways of innovating and governing evolve? We have just barely touched going into Horizon 2. Let's imagine it like that. But then we think, we can have a lot of value by just doing a lot of Horizon 2 stuff in a bank. But how does our innovation and governance shift? I have a hard time. It's a huge question for me.
The reason why I kind of don't know how to answer that question is a little bit like, or one of the reflections at least, is that what is an agent? We have agents. An agent can be like 2 LLMs, talking about how to best fetch data, or which data to fetch from the database given the prompt it has been given. That's one agent. Or an agent can be maybe, I don't know, making a credit decision.
But let's be let's be.
What's your definition of an agent?
Okay, what's the minimum definition of something that we call an agent and not an assistant? Something, I mean, like for me, it has something to do with autonomy and agency to do shit. As long as you are prompting it and it's just going down and doing something for you, I would probably give that the assistant label as a way to differentiate.
Like a RAG. It's a RAG. That's not an agent.
No, a RAG would be a RAG. As long as you are prompting, ChatGPT can never be an agent on its own, right? Because you're simply prompting it and it's giving you responses. It gives you suggesting what it should do, but you
don't think not even agent mode.
No, let's go there. I don't even use agent. I mean, like, so agent mode maybe it's agent mode, but I think we have had these conversations before. But it has something to do with actuation. It has something to do with you give it an instruction on a higher abstraction level, and then it can go out and actuate stuff. Before it actuates stuff on its own, this is gray, but for me that's sort of agent land compared to assistant land. I don't know. How do you do it? Because I was coming from the more actuation level of things. Autonomy. Having some framed autonomy to go out and do stuff.
Yeah, but I think that I envision that we will have many agents, maybe thousands of agents in a few years, but that they will be governed quite thoroughly. That you would have agentic systems that do stuff, but that also control stuff and ensure you have control. I think that at least in our industry, I think you need to have that built in from the start. But it's back to the question again: what is an agent and not, right? If I build individual service desk Copilot Studio agents, that's one thing. But if I'm starting to integrate agents in workflows and they start to make maybe small but still micro decisions, then I think you will introduce governance and guardrails even there, so that you can feel confident that you can scale up and still be in control. I think that would be a prerequisite.
I fully agree. Let's see what we can learn from what we have already done. You have about 400 bots in production in Nordea or something like that. You had before.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but we have
hundreds, right?
Scripts, yeah. So
let's not over. It's scripts that do stuff which is very repetitive and it's not dangerous at all. Everybody's doing it. How are we observing or monitoring or governing them?
Yeah, I mean I think it's pretty straightforward because they are all rule based, and you have you oversee them the same way that you oversee other applications, I think.
One by one, or do you have an overview layer of all the bots? Do you have like an observation panel for all the bots?
They sit in like different domains, and each bot has a human owner, and we have you have control rooms and how you monitor them, and you have dashboards.
But you have distributed out to some degree, so the people observing the bots, managing the bot knows what they should be doing, right?
Yeah, I think some are more like there's like, as I said, clusters of them. So you have like control towers here, you have a control tower here, and they monitor the robots.
So if I imagine, I'm just saying, is that logic feasible? I mean, like, okay, we have actuation and all that, so it's way more sophisticated. But what I'm taking out of that is that you might need to have a way to orchestrate all that. So you have some observation and monitoring of the whole of all bots. But then in the end, you have a distributed governance in relation to the teams that knows what these bots should be doing. And I think that kind of logic would apply to agents too. I mean, like, so these are the kind of things I'm thinking about. What are the infrastructure? What are the observation layers? What are the monitoring layers we would need? Olof, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm thinking more at some point. To me, it seems reasonable that agents would become like another employee or another team. And what do we need for that? Well, you need like good onboarding. You need some sort of metric or way to make sure that they do what they are supposed to do, and they have like a defined set of things they can do and cannot do. And yeah, I guess that's basically it. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but that's
so. This could have been a news piece. Did you see Satya Nadella's long interview on YouTube like last week or 2 weeks ago, something like that? He was talking about this.
I did not.
Go out and watch Satya Nadella talking about these topics quite freely, and you can see him. Oh my God, he's going to start charging agents as users in Microsoft.
Yeah.
So he's thinking like this.
Yeah.
So he's like, when you're starting to deploy an agent that has sort of the coworker type analog metaphor. So then a coworker what tools do this coworker need in order to work in our environment? They need this and this and this. And they need an email account. They need this and this and that. And then we are monitoring them and observing them in something like that. So this is one thesis here, and it's not anyone who's pushing this kind of thesis. So this is hardcore Microsoft play.
But we've been talking about this a bit related to Claude Code. I mean, everyone is praising it. It's like, it's like having a colleague or multiple colleagues. And then you look at the pricing model and it's like, it's $200 per month. I guess maybe it could be differences for enterprises. But if you start to look at what a software developer costs per month, there's a big gap.
There's a big gap, right? So this is one way. I have another angle that I want to test on you on how to imagine 1,000 agents. And I'm very much influenced by the data mesh journey that I've been on with Scania, where I have like friends like Paolo Platter, who's like a genius when it comes to data management and distributed architectures and stuff like that. And he basically said, AI, generative AI, he had his ideas, but he couldn't really understand. It didn't switch him on. Then as soon as we started talking agentic, this is about a year ago, 1.5 years ago, he's like, we're back to domain-driven design. We're back to your ideas, like what I was trying to pitch, agency. Because that logic that came with data mesh, that came with we need to have a domain and we need to have ownership around the data, is easily extensible to the agent storytelling. Like you have the data product and you have the agentic product in relation to a business workflow. And of course, they then build software, and so we have a data product archetype. Then we extend it to a RAG archetype, and now we extend it to knowledge products and agentic products. So his vision of this, as the core CTO, like the product vision of this technology, is more or less how we manage data products in terms of we need to have we need to define a data product. We put a data product in the marketplace. We need to have an SLA. We have, so the way the way we look, those metaphors and semantics we use for data products, he's kind of extending it and reimagining it from an agent view. And I think it starts to coincide with how you need to have a home for the agents. You need to have a place to onboard them so they have a data product development experience, from ideation of a data product to how you deploy a data product. So this is another angle on this story. I have one more angle. Abundantly. Do you know Henrik Nyberg? Have you heard? You know who Henrik Nyberg is? So Spotify, the Spotify model. Did you ever watch that video on YouTube?
Okay, yeah.
This is the guy.
Okay.
So he worked with Spotify when they sorted this out. He's an agile guru in software, but now he's a co-founder of Abundantly. We had him here, and he takes hardcore the coworker type onboarding metaphor to its fullest. So the way you set up an agent, very basic stuff that you can do now, is basically how would you onboard a junior intern? How would you give that junior intern feedback into knowing how to do their task? It kind of works. I've seen examples. He did the example with they did one with Alexander Norena with his second generation, documentary on all this stuff. So I don't know. I think this is very interesting to think about. Do we need where is the home of the agents? Where do they live? How do we onboard them? So what you said, Olof, is exactly down this line. Exactly down this line. So Bundle is going that route in one way. Wheatboost is going more, understanding it from a data product perspective. Tataya is sort of thinking about it. How can I sell another software license? But it's interesting, right? Because we get to another type. We get to that kind of computational governance of all this in some ways. I don't know. Hard to really imagine, but I don't think it's that far away. And I don't think imagine we're letting all these agents loose like Excel hell. Can you imagine? We have Excel sheets everywhere, and people are popping up agents like Excel.
Or macros.
Macros, right?
Macros on Excel, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you don't want to end up in like this macro hell. So yeah.
But I think this is a very real risk in a large enterprise.
Oh yeah. Shadow AI is real risk for sure.
We're gonna start closing the deal here. I didn't realize even the clock was running. We tried to do it at 7, and we haven't even gone to the geopolitical stuff. So I think we should go fairly quick here.
Geopolitics, that's a small.
That's a small philosophical question for the next 2 hours.
How are things in the West?
I completely lost track of time, guys. I had too much fun. Too many beers. I should have the beers afterwards. Damn it. I have one question that relates to this, which is on the same. Only one question, which is, and then we're going to have a final question. One thing that's been bugging me is like, how do we understand different laws and regulations in different parts of the world in relation to governance and innovation? So this is going into the whole discussion on the AI Act in Europe, and I always thought like, this. I wish we could solve it like they solved it in nuclear or whatever that UN or something. Do we need a world governing body around how we innovate and govern AI, or because I find it really tricky both how we innovate and how different markets go in different places, and what is it worth. So it's a stupid, hard, big question. But have you thought of how can we do different regulation in different parts of the world on these topics?
I think we are different, right? We are like, was it Kai-Fu Lee who talked about China is doing the AI implementation, US is doing the AI innovation, and Europe is doing the AI regulation.
Was that implementation, innovation, regulation?
Yeah. But now I think China is also doing lots of innovation. So, and Stockholm. Like there's some stuff happening here in cool. Innovation. The new Valhalla,
it's super cool
with all the companies here. So I think that we are also doing innovation. So, of course, GDPR and AI Act and stuff like that is a hinder for the hyperscalers to maybe roll out their stuff because they are unsure about how things work. But we are different. Like Europe, we care about people privacy, and we are maybe old-fashioned in that sense, but we do, and I think they don't work like that in China, or also not in the US. So we need to. So it's kind of like we can't change that. I think we have those regulations in Europe, and I think if I'm stepping out of my professional role as a private person, I think that I like that kind of. I like that we care about privacy, and I like that we care about not doing stupid things with AI, and I like that. I don't like the way that social media was handled, right, with no regulation anywhere, and now Australia is banning it for up to 16. Let's see how that goes. But I think that we don't want to do the same thing with AI as we did for social media, that we just kind of let it free us and then regulate after.
So the whole idea.
But I mean, that's easy to say, of course, and I know that it's like Olof said earlier. Like it's hard with these regulations because the underlying notion of them is great. You know, privacy for the people in Europe, but how should they be implemented and how should they be? Yeah, that's the tricky part.
Yeah, that's the uncertainty that makes it hard.
Yeah,
it's like we need to know what good looks like.
Yeah,
if we know what good looks like, then it's fine.
But then now you segue into my second bigger question, and that is like, I think we have had this conversation on the pod many times, where I end up in my thesis that it's not actually the regulation itself that is the problem. It's the legal uncertainty that is the problem, right? So when you read the AI Act, it's like, and if you try to read it with, I can read it with really critical eyes, and then it's all stupid, or I can read it with really positive eyes, and it's all really good. The problem is when we are trying to put the law in, and there is no harmonized standards, there's no definition of what good looks like. Yeah, exactly. And so it's, in my opinion, it's a rushed type of regulation. And I think this is the hard part. When you're regulating stuff that is really sharp, what it is, then it's easy, right? Then you can put boxes on it. And AI has been so fluid now, so it's this whole definition of when and how do you put regulation in when you're not really understanding what you're regulating. I think that's the problem. People are trying to put regulation on something that they are not competent enough in understanding how to do it, and they are doing the directive work without the harmonized standards work. And I don't have a problem with the regulation. I'm having a problem that we haven't done the work on harmonized standards. So people are getting off easy when the real work started now. Yeah. Sorry, that was my rant.
No, I completely agree. I think we faced like similar problems internally, that we have unclear requirements, and in those situations it's like you talk to one person, then they say this is good, and when you talk to another, no, that's crap, that's not good enough, it has to be here. And for me, when we try to do things quickly internally, it's just if I know what good looks like, then I can solve it.
Okay, hallelujah. This is profound, because then we can ask the final question, proper question. How can Nordea, Sweden, Europe, Scania reduce legal uncertainty to be better at innovation properly? What are the things we're going? Because I think we are not so good at this internally in our enterprises. Not good enough. And then Sweden is not good enough. Europe is not good enough. We're not good enough in putting ourselves in problems of legal uncertainty. And what is the mechanisms here that we need to improve? Because I think it's the fundamental same mechanism.
A tight feedback loop.
Feedback loops. I love that. Explain.
Yeah, we need some way that the information can flow both top down and bottom up. So the people that go through the process can help make the process smoother for the next one.
You need to read our IP in Derdax. It's all about feedback loops. Yeah. Systemic stupidity versus agentic intelligence is about feedback loops.
Yeah, it makes sense.
This is cybernetics.
Need somewhere to improve.
So feedback loops, I like that. Mm-hmm. Is that enough? Because in the same way then, you need to then understand with the feedback loop, you get, you haven't sorted this out properly. There's some more work to do. So the feedback loop then also needs to drive what is missing, what's the gap, and so on, acting on it. So feedback loops with agency to act on that feedback loop.
For sure mandate is required in order to improve based on the feedback. You need to measure the right things as well. That's usually a systemic problem.
I think this is fairly profound stuff. Do you have any view on, legal uncertainty is always the tricky point, and we have 2 different definitions or 3 different definitions.
Yeah, to me, my experience is that we are fairly good, and we focus a lot on drawing out very good customer journeys. We should be easy to deal with. We should be like, we're quite digitally mature in the Nordics, right? In the banks. So we're good at sort of, the customer understands how he or she should navigate. But for us as employee in a big enterprise, the employee journey is usually not something that we spend a whole lot of time on. So if I'm going to develop something, it's, of course, we have tools and we have, but it's also something to do that the basics is quite straightforward. You need to have lawful basis to do something. You need to have the right data classification. You need to be able to process that data, and you need to, some more things. But like those are the things that you need to follow. But how that is described and implemented is usually quite complex, both from like the external regulatory bodies, but also from like internal experts. Like you have group compliance, you have group legal, you have model validation. Those policies are quite complex, and we are trying to spend more time than also thinking about the internal, like how to navigate as an internal employee in this. So I think that's also something that adds to the difficulties.
I think okay. We need to. We can continue on this.
He's going to a concert, that guy. So we need to stop.
We need to stop now.
Stop like that. Finish it.
Yeah, finish it. But let's turn off the camera and continue on that question, because I think you're hitting the nail on that. In the end, we're muddling through an adoption. Innovation to adoption is not so clear. So we can educate on the techniques and inventions, but in the end, if we have unclear processes, what's the innovation to adoption journey for an employee in the smallest sense or as a horizon to workflow, it takes time. I'm going to stop here. We usually end on a philosophical question, but I think legal uncertainty and adoption as the key navigator is the way forward. And we stop there.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.